Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house at Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel went no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. I want you to pay a particular attention to the word mourned. He mourned for Saul. He mourned for Saul. Could you give me 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1? 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. Now the Lord said to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul? Seeing I have rejected him. The word is mourn. You don't mourn for the living. You mourn for the dead. You mourn. You don't mourn the living. When somebody is still alive, why would you be mourning? But Samuel was mourning for Saul. The man for whom Samuel was mourning, now check this out. He was still physically alive. He was still the king. He was still sitting on the throne. He was still being attended to by his servants. He had everything still going on. He was still giving commands. And people were still saying, Your Royal Highness. But Samuel, the prophet, Samuel, the seer. When we say the seer, in those days, the people we call prophets now, they were called seers. What will be a seer? A seer will be somebody who sees beyond the ordinary. He sees beyond the ordinary. Samuel the seer went home and he was mourning because he knew that Saul, for all practical purposes, was dead. He was dead. Why was he dead? He had been disconnected from God. He had been disconnected from God. When you are disconnected from your Maker, you are an empty shell. Now, that does not mean that you will not have all the appearance of being alive. That doesn't mean that you will not be able to move around. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to purchase a house. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to accumulate wealth. But when you are disconnected from your source, and the Lord is our source, just like the tree, when it's pulled out from the ground, it may have all the appearances of being alive, but it is dead. Just like the fish, when it's pulled out of the water, it may have the appearance of being alive, flapping around, but for all practical purposes, the fish is dead. So it is with man. So it is with man.